seminar. Karen will be doing a presentation for us, sort of laying out the components of an elevator pitch. I know you've all sort of been thinking about this a little bit, maybe staying up at night over this. You don't have to be too nervous. The reason we do this is because it's extremely important that each of you masters this skill. For the rest of your career, you'll be able to use this. And I was telling a couple people this story, but just to let you know why we're doing this and let you know why the nervousness is worth it. Last year when we did this seminar, we had one of our fellows who was extremely nervous, but she got up, she did her pitch. I put her video up on YouTube, she practiced at home, and I got an email 2 weeks after the seminar, and she told me she actually ran into a funder who she was trying to get in touch with but wasn't returning her calls. She gave the pitch that she had practiced in the seminar and got funded. So it works, it's important, it will be extremely beneficial for you, and this is a good space to practice it among friends before you have to practice with a funder and actually use it, okay? So Karen will give this presentation. You'll have 10 minutes to brainstorm and write it down. You're going to be giving a 60-second pitch. That's a hard 60 seconds. We'll be timing you and cutting you off. It's okay if, this is practice. You'll have more time. And we'll be giving a minute or two of feedback. Karen will be staying with us, luckily. And you'll each get an opportunity to do this, okay? Don't worry about being nervous. We're all friends. I am going to be recording you, but I don't want you to think about that. It'll be a tool for you to use at a later date, okay? So everybody, let's welcome Karen. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you. So I hope everybody can hear me. I was going to sit in the middle, but then I couldn't see you all. So I'm really pleased to be here. Some of you may have noticed that I have a little piece of handwritten paper. Like many people, I am at the moment electronically challenged. I'm probably more electronically challenged than all of you anyway, but I have some real computer problems, and I had to sit and write this out. So in some ways, I forced myself to do a little bit of what I'm going to talk about with all of you. The other piece of my opening I think I would like to say, which touches on what we just heard, is this is supposed to be a fun game. This is supposed to be relaxed. You're all friends. You all know each other. There's no grades. There's no marks. Get into it. Enjoy it. Smile. Have a good time. You will do much better if you can sort of enter into this with that attitude. So the most important thing when you are thinking about an elevator speech, is there anybody who doesn't know what we mean when we talk about an elevator speech? Okay, great. So when we talk about an elevator speech, who are you talking to? What is that group like? Whether it's one person that you're literally going to corner in an elevator, or a large group. I've had to make elevator speeches in front of rooms probably almost as large as this. So the first thing when I am thinking this through is, who are those people? What do they want from me, and what do I want from them? Keep those points in your head. In a few moments I'll talk about things I want you to write down. But just keep that in the back of your head. Who are you talking to? The next really important thing to think about as you're getting ready to prepare yourself to put this all together is your subject matter. Now, I eavesdropped on a conversation a moment ago, and I heard somebody say that for them the hardest part about this is trying to figure out, what am I going to talk about? What is my subject matter? At this point in the exercise, the subject matter is something you really know a great deal about. It might be that American flag. It might be the subway ride you took to get here. Ultimately, it's going to be how to make a pitch around your work or the organization that you're affiliated with or an issue that you care about. But for the moment and for this exercise, you should think about something that you know absolutely in your sleep back and forth, and nothing about the subject matter is going to make you nervous. Because in the run-up to this and the learning how to do it, you don't want to be anxious about your subject matter. When you take this out into the larger world and it really becomes the pitch that you're going to give, obviously the most important thing is to know your subject matter. start writing it down. So, when I start thinking about how I'm going to make an elevator pitch, having thought about my audience, having thought about the subject matter in the largest context possible, I literally, in an old-fashioned way, though you certainly can do it in a computer, is I sit down and I write a list. I write a list of the 3, 4, at the most 5 points that I want to cover. And then I go back to that list and I take the list apart. It's, in today's world where we do everything electronically and in our heads and very quickly, I think that in order to prepare yourself, especially when you're first beginning this kind of exercise, it's really helpful to take an old-fashioned pencil and pen and sit down and not only write out those points, as I said, but then go back to each point and what is it really about those 3, 4, at the most, as I said, 5 points that you want to get across that are going to catch the person on the other side. So, for instance, I'm giving an elevator speech to you, and I'm talking to you about how to make an elevator speech. The most important thing I want to get across to you is to be relaxed, not to worry. Because if you're tense and you're uptight, then it's not going to come across. So the first thing I said, one of the first things I said to you after I apologized for all my lack of communication skills here in front of you, is to relax. Put those pieces, those down on paper to start with. Look at each one of your points and think about what it is within that point that you really want to communicate to somebody. So you've written it down. You have 4 points. Under each point, perhaps you have 3 bullets. Now, take another piece of paper and sit down and literally write out what you're going to say. It sounds silly, but from my experience, that's how I get to the point that I can give a 60-second presentation. So I take my points and I write out my speech. You're going to write something that's probably going to end up looking like, I don't know, for sure not 60 seconds, for sure not 30 seconds, probably 4 or 5 minutes, because most of us don't realize how much information we've laid out there. So once you've put it down on a piece of paper, say it out loud. It's not finished, you're nowhere near ready to do it, and I often do this because I sometimes do this in settings in which it's not really appropriate to speak out loud. I read it out loud in my head, not the way we were all taught to read, not the way most of us read, but literally word for word, how am I going to say this? What am I going to say in my head? And then I go back and I edit it, and I do it again, and I do it again. And the truth is that taping is really, really helpful, but nothing, absolutely nothing in preparing yourself, whether it's an elevator speech or a longer presentation, is a substitute for practicing it over and over again. My introduction may mention that I worked in politics. I worked in politics for a very long time. I spent a lot of my career in Washington. I am somebody who has given both short and long-term speeches. The speeches you hear, whether it's by the president, a congressperson, or even a newscaster, other than people who just read the news, they practice. It may seem sometimes like it's informal and off the cuff, but I assure you that there is no one who gives really good presentations who doesn't practice. The real art of this is to look like you're speaking informally and you're speaking in a relaxed kind of way, but you really, maybe not memorize the words, but memorize the paragraphs that you're presenting. And so I'm going to repeat that several more times before we finish today. Write it down, read it through, edit it, practice it. And when when you edit it, you'll begin to narrow down your points and hone in on what will ultimately be your 60-second presentation. Now, I think, for me, certainly, the hardest part of all of this is how do I get from what is 4 or 5 minutes down to 60 seconds? And there's no secret to this other than I try to get it down to less than 60 seconds, knowing that partly because of who I am and my nature, but I also think it's human nature, that as I speak and I look at somebody, maybe their body language, maybe they shake their head so it looks like they're agreeing with me, I'm going to want to hone in on that point, emphasize it a little more. So if I narrow down my speech to 60 seconds or 120 seconds, whatever it is, I'm always going to go over. And so I work very hard, whatever the time frame I'm given, to make sure my presentation is actually a little shorter than what I ultimately give, because I know that I will go over, even though I speak so quickly. One of the axioms that is drilled into my head in this context is that brevity is really key to an elevator speech. Often, we think if we just get one more piece of information in there, if we can just get them to hear one more fact about our organization, let them know one more anecdote about the constituents we serve, I'm going to close that deal. In an elevator speech, that's probably not the case. Brevity, honing in on those points, that's really what you want to do. So if I had a PowerPoint, what I would put up at this moment is that the key elements for me of an elevator speech are knowing your audience, preparation, practice, clarity, and now we haven't talked about how to make that speech compelling, a compelling pitch. So, how do we do that? Most of you are going to make these pitches, as I understand it, about something that you care about very, very much. You're passionate, hopefully, about it. So you know your audience, you know your subject matter, and you're passionate about it. You need to convey to whoever the recipients are, again, whether it's a large group or an individual, that passion. Now, passion doesn't mean emotion in this context. I'm not suggesting that you are going to get overly excited or try to get someone to cry or any other physical, emotional things. You can convey passion simply by somebody. It was talked about a session you had or she went to where someone helped her with breathing and the tone of their voice. You can do that with just taking a pause. Letting the person on the other end know this is a really important moment, what I'm about to say. That can convey that passion. Words help, obviously. You don't want to leave out those words. Anecdotes help, but in an elevator speech, it's really, really hard to get it in more than one anecdote. I like anecdotes. I use them all the time, but you want facts. You want somebody to hear the substance of what it is that you know and what you want to convey to them. Truth is that the secret to a good elevator speech is that it has to be short. It has to be to the point. Now, we're short, we're to the point, we're passionate, we've got a lot of content in there, and we want someone to walk away from this remembering every word we said. So how can we possibly get all of that in 60 seconds? Most